Hi there, and thank you for tuning in. The content of this video is rather specialized, so maybe you want to start with some more basic videos about the Nikon Z50. And as you can see here, I have a whole playlist with videos about the Z50, almost like an online manual. Please find the link in the description below. You can use the table of content in the timeline below to go to the sections of interest to you, or you can unfold the description and use the table of content listed there. So why is the eye menu so important on your Nikon Z50? Well, I think Nikon has changed their philosophy on how they design their cameras. Let me just show you my good old trusty Nikon Z50 to show you the difference between these two cameras. And the difference especially is found here on the left hand side of the camera. You can see I have buttons here for switching between autofocus and manual focus here. And if I push this button here, you can see I can change the focus modes up here by turning the front and rear command dials. So all of these buttons, this one and the bracketing button here for the Nikon Z50, they have different versions of what they put here on the left hand side. But all of these buttons are gone on the Z50, and there are much fewer buttons in general. You can see also the two shortcuts here, the two buttons you push to format the memory card, they are gone as well on the Nikon Z50. Then I guess you can say, Frederick, but that's because the Z50 has so little real estate, so they had to remove the buttons. Well, here I have my Z6 Mark II, and you can see it's exactly the same. There are no buttons on the left-hand side. Everything has moved to the right-hand side, and actually there's only buttons and dials here for your right hand. Your left hand will support the camera. So I think this is a change in philosophy, and this brings me to motivate why the eye menu here, or the quick menu, is so important. That's because in here you have all the things that are very frequently used, including those buttons you found on the bottom left of your good old DSLRs. So here in the quick menu you have 12 items to select from. For the three to the right, they are the very classic ones. It is the focus mode, the autofocus area mode, and the release mode. Although your mileage may vary, I would suggest that you keep these three items in the quick menu, as most photographers use these often. It could also be you want to maintain the metering options, as this is another classic parameter to update. For the remaining 8 values, I would say it's more subject to personal preference and what you shoot and how you work with your camera. So here I would imagine the configuration of the quick menu comes in handy. So to configure the quick menu, you need to hit the menu button on the rear of the camera and then head over to the pencil menu or the custom setting menu. Here you'll find F controls, where you have customize eye menu or quick menu as the first item. You can see down here there's also one called G1, and it's a little bit confusing because it's exactly the same. But as you see the top text, the G1 is for video and the F1 is for photography or pictures. So here I will just work with the F1, but be aware here again, see the top text G movie. I will just go into the F1 and configure that one. In here you can see it looks very much like the other menu or the quick menu itself, but some of the text or the logos here are a little bit different. For instance, size is a little bit different. And I seldom change the image size, so I think I will look to see if I can switch that one with something more useful. And in here you can see you have a lot of options, and notice the bar to the right as I just flick through the pages many times. You can see you have a whole lot of options here. I think I counted more than 30 options here so that you can choose from. But currently it says to image size, that's why you have the yellow bar, but you can choose exposure compensation. I would not recommend that because you have a dedicated button for that. But of course, if you really want to, that is possible, and you can reconfigure the exposure compensation button that sits on top of the camera. And the same is with the ISO sensitivity settings. You can choose that here, but you also have a dedicated button for that. I wouldn't choose these two as options in my quick menu. But as I am a landscape photographer, I often shoot bracketed, and that is a bit further down the list here. And you can see here, there it is, BKT, auto bracketing. And if I select that one, I bring it back now to the menu. You see I'm still in the customize menu, but now I have changed the value, and there it is below the image quality. If I then go back to the quick menu itself, not where I configure it, but the menu, the actual menu itself, you can see now here I have an option here for auto bracketing where I used to have the image size. And now if I hit that one, you can see I can go in and change the parameters here and set up how the bracketing works. Okay, another example is that I would like to switch the position of the metering mode and the vibration reduction. And you can see they are both in the bottom row, number 3 and number 5 both. So I go to the controls again, customize menu, and then there's no way to change the position. So what I have to do is I have to go in and select new values for both positions. So here over to the right where I would like the metering to be, so it's close to the other classic buttons, if I could call them like that. I changed that from optical VR to be the metering mode. You can see here it's a little bit difficult to find because there are so many options, but there it is. So I select that on. Now I'm in a little bit silly situation that I have the same menu item twice, and of course I want to change that. So I go back to where the metering originally was, and now I will put the vibration reduction option in there. So there's the metering currently selected. You can see the yellow frame. And now I just need to find the VR thing. There it is, number 3 here on the list. Boom. And now they have swapped position. So now I have all the classic buttons, if I will call it like that, over to the right in the menu. And that's the way I like it. So the function buttons on the front of your camera, they are configured almost the same place. Instead of being F1 in the pencil menu, it's now F2. You can see here we used F1 for the quick menu. Now it's F2. And if I select that one, you can see I have 2 function buttons. Notice the yellow graphics that jumps back and forth as I flick between function button 1 and 2. I think it's a great way of showing which button it is you are changing or configuring. And here is the specific menu now for function button 1. You can see that in the top. Currently I've selected preview because I like to see my depth of field when I'm shooting at a narrow aperture. But if I just hold down the command wheel and show you how many options there are here, it's absolutely overwhelming. And of course you should study this list in your own time. And function button F2 is exactly the same. You have again a very long list of things you can choose from, and you configure that exactly just by changing the value, by choosing a new value. You can see here as I flick through all the options here, there are many buttons you could configure, exactly the same principle as function button 1 and 2. I will not demonstrate that. The principle is exactly the same as for the function buttons. If you found the content of this video useful, please hit the like button. You may also want to use the subscribe button. You find that in the bottom right of the screen. Thank you. And here towards the end, a little bonus thing. We went in and configure the 2 function buttons, but you can configure more in here. And I just want to show you, you can actually configure the focus ring, the manual focus ring. You can see here, bottom right in this menu here, there is a ring with an arrow pointing up and down. And when I select that, you get into a menu where you can assign a value or a function to the focus ring. And here it is set to the aperture. And you can see in the top here that it's normally or default is allocated to focus, of course. But as you can see here, you can assign it to aperture, exposure compensation, ISO sensitivity, or not use the focus ring at all. Okay, that's it from me. As always, happy shooting. Take care. Bye bye.